Everyone, welcome to the channel as usual. Thank you so much for stopping by. If this is your first time coming across my video, you are absolutely beautiful and welcome. My name is Daisy. So, in today's video, we will be talking about Brazil's racism and my experiences. But before I go into dissecting the topic of the day, I would like to say something. Now, everything I'm going to be saying in this video today has everything to do with me, my experiences, opinion, my ideas. It has nothing to do with what anyone has experienced in a different way. Why? Because it is possible that racism has happened to me this way and it hasn't happened to somebody else. It is possible that all I've experienced, someone living in Brazil has not even experienced it at all. It is also possible that all I've experienced, someone somewhere actually has experienced it the same way. So I am not in any way generalizing my experiences to relate to other people. So I just want to make this clear that it is all about me. All I've been through, all I've experienced, everything is me and not any other, not trying to relate it to everybody. Okay? Now let's go into the main gist of the day. Before I go into my one or two stories here and there about racism that has been against me, I would like to say that Brazil, if I am to rate Brazil when it comes to racism, if I'm to rate Brazil when it comes to racism, I would say Brazil is on a 10% scale of, when I'm trying to say that, like I said, this is all about me. It is all about what I feel, how I've seen it, how it has happened to me. So if I'm to say, how is racism like in Brazil? I would say it's on a 10% scale, or let me say 15% scale. Why? Because racism in Brazil is not much at all compared to other countries I've been to, lived in. Racism, for example, in Middle East, in the continent of Asia, Middle East, those places are the ocean of racism. Like when you go into places like that, starting from when you visit or when you try to live there, before you enter into those places, the countries, you would already smell racism everywhere. Not to even talk of when you want to now live there, work there. In fact, you will be plastered with racist behavior, comments, attitude, and everything. So, but looking at Brazil, if you compare it to living in Brazil and what racism is about, racism in Brazil is just on a very low scale, very, very low scale. However, there are still racists, and that is why I'm here today to share my experiences. And now let's go right into some of the few times I have experienced racism from one or two, three people. Okay, now when I came to Brazil, the individual in charge of my case, not really in charge of, no case, in charge of, will I say me, helping me do one or two things here and there when I came, he took me to go do my CPF, Social Security number, like the Americans will call it. So he took me to do my CPF, and when I got there, he looked at me. He said, look there, look at the receptionist area. You see, there's a white man there, black man there, la la la. He just told me, he said, look, if we happen to sit in front of that black man or that brown man, because there's black and brown, there's a difference between the pure black Brazilian, brown Brazilian. Brown Brazilians are, I'm going to define it so that you know the difference. Brown Brazilians are people like they are not white, they are not black. They are just light skinned, but then they have the coily hair. Some of them can even be very, very black in skin color, but their hair is coily somehow. So those are brown Brazilians. So you have the black Brazilians that are totally black like you and I, the same hair with us, the same hair texture with us, no coily hair, nothing, but they are all categorized as black and brown in Brazil. So this category, this one was telling me, if we go in front of any black and brown man or woman, you will see that they will treat us not nice. I was like, wow. Is that for real? But when he told me that, I'm like, I didn't accept it. I believed him. I didn't disbelieve him. I didn't say what he was saying was wrong or right. But for me, I decided not to take it, not to accept it. Why? Because it does not happen to me. I would only accept what I have seen, heard, or experienced. I would never jump at any circumstance or situation that somebody told me that I have not experienced. So everything I do in life, say in life, are always on my experience. Okay? So I said, okay, no problem. I didn't even look at them with that eyes that, oh, they say you're a racist. They say you treat other people bad. So I didn't look at them with that eyes. I didn't bother myself. I didn't accept it. So he said to me, you will see that they will treat us. He now further said, they treat people, they treat black Africans so badly. Like he was trying to tell me that the black and brown Brazilians treat the black Africans so badly. I'm like, okay, no problem. I didn't accept it. So anyway, we went there. We did whatever we wanted to do. They gave us an appointment to come another day to come do the CPF. Anyway, fast forward, we came on that day. We came on that date and we were like 3 minutes to 5 minutes late. I think about 3 minutes. When we got there was a security guard there standing. We presented everyone that comes in there has to present their documents or blah 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 to this security guy right in front of the place. So we presented our documents. He looked at our time. He looked at our time, and he looked at us. He said we are late. So the man that was helping me was like, oh, he speaks Portuguese. So he was like, oh, that we are not that late. It's just 3 minutes. And the guy said, no, we are not going to go inside. The guy was begging him because we waited 1 week to come to that appointment, you know. The guy was, the person who came with me was begging him, please, let's go in. It's just 3 minutes. It's not that late. And the guy said, no, he insisted. So the person who came with me went to the reception, asked it, begged them that we are just 3 minutes late. Please let us in. So they said, you have to go back to the security guy. He's the one in charge. He's the one that can make that decision. So we went back to him. We were begging him. He said no. Anyway, and the funniest thing is that the people even ahead of us had not even been called. They are still on the queue waiting. So we still had the opportunity to still, go in, and we will still end up waiting for a long time. But this guy said no. Anyway, so the man looked at me and said to me, what did I tell you? So now what am I trying to say? The security guy that was standing right there is actually a brown Brazilian. The one with the mixed color and the coily hair, brown. So I will be differentiating it because there's purely black Brazilian that looks like us, black like they came from Africa. They came to take them in here, as slaves. I won't call them slaves. They are not slaves, but the white people define them as slaves, but I refuse to accept them as slaves. They are not slaves. They were not slaves, and they are still not slaves. The black people are not slaves. Anyway, so those ones are now here as Brazilians. They are no longer Africans because their forefathers have been here for a long time. So they identify as Brazilians, even though they have our skin color, our texture of hair, everything, but they are black Brazilians. So the brown one, like I said, I've already defined that. So anyway, so that gate man himself happens to be, he refused just because we were 3 minutes late. And it was not yet going to be our turn in any way. At any time, we were still going to be sitting down for a long time. He said no. So that was the first experience. I'm like, I'm getting it. Anyway, fast forward. When I was pregnant with my baby, I used to go to the clinic. Before I was pregnant anyway, I have severe abdominal pain issues. So I used to go to the hospital. They were trying to see what my problem was. So the doctor told me to go to do scan and all of that stuff. So I went there to the clinic on that day to do my scan, to do the scan to check for the problem of the abdominal pain stuff. And then when I got there, and on that same day, I decided that I will check for pregnancy as well, because I knew I was pregnant, but I wanted an official statement to declare me pregnant medically. Yeah. So I had two things in mind. I will go for my scan to check what is wrong with me abdominally, and then also to check if I was pregnant. So when I got there, at the reception, I presented my documents and everything. The girl sitting right in front of me was just looking at me. She was pretending like she didn't know what I came there to do. So I was still trying to explain, because I usually use my phone when I just came. I usually use my phone to translate. She knew I couldn't speak. She knew what I was there for. She saw my document. She knew I was there for ultrasound, but she just was acting like I wasn't there. I was trying and trying. She was acting like I wasn't there. So while I was just frustrated, standing there, I didn't react. I didn't respond in any way. I just was trying to make her understand I'm there for something. While I was struggling to get her attention to talk to me, somebody identified what was going on between us, and the lady tapped me from the back. So when she tapped me from the back, I turned back. I looked at her. She was like, "Do you need help?" Oh, I'm like, "Oh, you speak English. Thank God." She was like, "Yes, I speak English and I can help you." So the lady came, and she came into the situation, and she started talking to this lady. Did you know immediately this lady turned to her and started talking to her? And then the lady was telling her, she said, even from her mannerisms, I knew she knew why I was there. She just didn't want to attend to me. Now, what race is this person? brown Brazilian. Okay, very dark skin, but with the coily hair, and they look kind of different, like all these Fulani people in even more than that. So this person happens to be a brown Brazilian, okay, brown skinned Brazilian with a coily hair. So when this girl started negotiating, talking to her, then she directed us to where I was supposed to have my scan, and then we proceeded. So this lady followed me to the place. She stayed with me. She took me everywhere I was supposed to go. I didn't know this girl from anywhere. As a matter of fact, to cut the long story short, because I don't want to make each of the stories too long because they happened in a long way, but I'll just keep it short. Anyway, so this lady started following me everywhere, 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 everywhere. Took me to this department, took me to that department for my scan, and then she even followed me to a point where I did my pregnancy test. Remember, I said I was there for two things, and then I did my pregnancy test. She was there with me. My partner then was in another city. I was in Rio de Janeiro. All these experiences I'm talking about now happened in Rio de Janeiro. So she was even there when I was pronounced pregnant. I was happy. She was happy for me. She even told me she's not interested in having children. She likes children. She plays with her sister's children, but she personally doesn't want children. I'm like, okay, no problem. Like, I was like, why? It's good to have kids, even if it's one. She said no. Anyway, that is that. So this lady, I was even in my mind, when she helped me through all of that, it was getting to the afternoon because it was early in the morning when I went to the clinic. This girl stayed by me. So when I was pronounced pregnant, I had to start, seeing doctors, seeing this, that. They immediately started booking me for one thing or the other. So it was taking time. This girl was still there for me. Was taking time. I asked her, wouldn't you go? Don't you have things you want to do? She said, no, don't worry. I'm here for you. I'm like, okay. So I stayed till the evening time. This girl was still there for me. I had to see a doctor at that point because of my pregnancy. So as a result, even the other scan I came to do, they didn't even consider that, I don't know, important anymore, because now they cannot do anything further for my abdominal pain because now I'm pregnant. So this lady stayed with me. We saw the doctor, everything. Evening, it was now around 3 p.m. From 8 a.m. This girl stood by me till that time. So I remember, I'm going to cut the story short a little bit here now. I remember when I was growing up. So, no. Okay, before I get into that part. So this lady still stood by me. At a point, she stood by me to a point where she took me everywhere, did everything for me, to the point where she had to call in at work. She called her job, telling them she's not gonna come to work. That she's calling in that she's gonna be absent. I'm like, what? Because she wanted to stay with me. I'm like, okay. I was like, in my mind, I was even saying, you will not go, She didn't go. She called in, said she was not going to come, and that was it. She was staying with me. So because of that, I was so touched. From morning, around 8 a.m. when I got there. In fact, I got there 7:30 a.m., but I met her around 8 a.m., and then she was still there with me up until 3 p.m., and that was when she called her job. And then, especially after they pronounced me pregnant, then she was just stuck. And then I was now forced, because at that time, we had not even asked of each other's name. So I decided, I'm like, okay, let me ask this woman that is so kind to me her name. So I asked her, I said, what is your name? She told me her name is Luciana. I'm like, wow, Luciana. I said, but in my mind, because why I asked of that name is because I know I'm supposed to know her name as somebody who stood by me since morning. But another reason I asked of that name is I was not looking at it. For you to stand by me so much like this, up until the time I was pronounced pregnant, I was now wishing I would give my child her name if she turns out to be a girl. So now, but when I was growing up, I used to watch Mexican movies, Brazilian soap operas when I was younger in Nigeria. I used to watch them a lot. I used to like Brazilian soap operas, but I didn't even know I was going to move to Brazil then. But I just love the Mexican and Brazilians. Those two, I really love them a lot. Their soap operas a lot. So in one of the Mexican soap operas that I watched, there was a character in that soap opera that her name was Iluminada. Iluminada, when I heard the name then when I was in Nigeria, I'm like, oh, Iluminada. I like strange names with powerful meaning. That is me. I don't care if my child's name comes from another country. I don't even care to give my child a name from my country. It doesn't bother me. As long as the name is powerful, different, with a strong meaning, then I am super good, super okay to name my child that name. So I looked at a couple of names when I was growing up. I wanted a weird name, like a name that is not common, that people can actually, when you call, that person's name, they'll be like, oh, this name is so strange. But behind it is a powerful meaning. So that is my idea of naming a child. Anyway, so then, like I was saying, Illuminada was a name I wanted. I liked it. When I heard it in the soap opera, I liked the character and I liked the name of that character. So when I heard Illuminada, I knew it has to do with something that has to do with illuminate. Because in English, there is a word called illuminate, right? Illuminate, illumination, illuminate, whatever. Okay, so I am like, okay, this sounds like illuminate. So I decided to Google to check the meaning. Okay, so I said, if it has a good meaning, which I already suspect it does because of, we all know what illuminate is for those of us that understand English. So I said I was going to give my child that name. Now, Illuminada is a Spanish name. Okay, it's a Spanish name, and I didn't mind at all to give my child that name. If the baby turns out to be a girl. So I checked immediately while I was watching the soap opera when I was way younger then in Nigeria. I checked it now happened. It turned to, the meaning was light. Okay, light or star. I'm like, oh wow, this is nice. I like it. I'll name my girl Illuminada. Now fast forward back to Brazil and the lady that was helping me. And then when she told me her name is Luciana, I'm like, God. And I remember that when I was growing up, I already picked the name Illuminada to name my child. I'm like, but because this woman is so kind to me, I would like to keep her memory in my child. If she turns out to be a girl, I would like to keep this memory, with her name, a link to her name. So I said, okay, at that moment at the clinic, I decided to check the meaning of Luciana. I wanted to see, first of all, if it had a powerful meaning. Second of all, if it's something I can try to give my child, if the meaning is powerful. I said, okay, let me just Google. Let me see the meaning first. When I put it on Google. What is the meaning of the name Luciana? Boom. When the name came out, I saw the meaning. I'm like, maybe my eye is paining me. I deleted it. I put it again. Boom. It came out again. I read it. I said, maybe I'm not seeing well. Let me use another, I rephrased to see if it will give me another answer. I changed the words here and there, and then boom, it gave me the same meaning again. Lo and behold, that name Luciana means light. Exactly the same meaning as Illuminada. I was like, how good can you be, God? Like the same meaning. So I was so happy because now it becomes so easy to give my child Luciana, knowing that it has the same meaning as the first ever name I had planned to give my child, which was Illuminada. Okay. So now the only difference now is Illuminada is Spanish. Then Luciana is Portuguese. So that is the only difference. So they both carry the same meaning. Coincidence, I don't even know if I can call that coincidence. That is more than a coincidence. It is actually a miracle. So at the end of the day, it all tells me that is the name God actually picked for her from, before she was even born, because it is just too much of a coincidence. Anyway, moving forward, so when I saw the meaning was the same, I'm like, yes, that is your name, Luciana, if you ever come out to be a girl. So that is how my daughter's name came about, Luciana. Anyway, moving forward, so the whole thing was done, and that is the second part of racism that I experienced. That's the second. So the next type of racism I faced was, I was still pregnant, same clinic. I was told to come do lab tests, draw my blood, bring my urine, my feces, things like that. So I came on this day, very pregnant now at this point. I was 6 months pregnant. I came, and the lab technician was right there in the laboratory room or whatever. So I gave her my papers, she saw the lab papers. She knows it's there. I'm supposed to have the lab test there. Everybody that wants to do lab tests goes there. So even it's easy to figure out the paper because the paper belongs to them there. It's very obvious. So I was pointing it to her. I couldn't speak anything in Portuguese at all. So I gave her, I typed on my phone that I'm here for my lab test, even though it's very obvious from my documents, from my card, from my lab card, whatever. But I still typed and I showed her. This woman was looking at me like I don't exist. She just didn't look at me. And I kept continuing to talk. I continued to try to get her attention. I was standing right in front of her. Remember, I'm pregnant. I'm tired. I'm weak. Everything is wrong with me. And I'm still trying to get this woman's attention. She didn't want to read from my phone. And she didn't even want to take my card to say, okay, I know you're here for this, or even if she doesn't talk to me, just take my card, register me as one of the people that has come to draw blood and submit her urine. She didn't attend to both the lab card. She didn't attend to my phone trying to tell her I'm here for my test. She didn't even want to talk to me at all. So while I was there, to cut the long story short, I'm like, okay. I stood there 5 minutes. I was still standing in front of this woman. She didn't even. Anyway, so when I stood for a while, I was now tired, because the fact is, if she doesn't take the card from me, there is no other place to do the test. It is still there. And if she doesn't take it from me, I will not be in line to be called. So when I stood and I was getting tired, I said, I'm standing in front of this woman like this. She continued to write whatever she's writing. She didn't care. She didn't. When I stood and I showed her my card again, like I'm here, I started speaking English at some point. Look, at least if you don't hear my language, you see the paper in my hand, you know the meaning. Even if you can take it from me, read it. If I'm in the wrong place, you can tell me it's not here by body language and I go. But she did not attend to anything. So I now said, while I stood and I now got tired, nobody was attending to me. You know what I decided to do? I just took my phone. That what I wrote before to tell her that I'm here to do my lab test and all that, I deleted it and I wrote in my translator. I wrote there, I said, you are not kind at all to people and most especially to foreigners. You are not supposed to work in a place like this. You are a racist. So when I wrote in my translator, I gave it to her to read. She still acted like she didn't care. She didn't want to check. You know what I did? I just took, because if she doesn't attend to me, there is nowhere to do the test. There's no place to go. And it is really wrong. It is wrong for her to keep me waiting. It is wrong for her to even keep a pregnant woman standing, waiting for no reason. Apart from being pregnant, it is absolutely wrong to keep a patient waiting for any reason. So when she refused to read it, you know what I did? She continued to pretend to write and write and write and write. Okay, you know what I did? I just dropped my phone in front of what she was writing. I said, let me see how you will not attend to me. At this point, I was not even ready to interpret anything in Portuguese. I was ready to use my language the way I knew it to express myself. If you hear me, good for you. If you don't hear me, that is absolutely still good for you. If you understand me, if you can understand me through body language, then my message is passed. Then I put my phone in front of what she was doing, because that's the only way I can get her attention. And I said to her in English, read. Because now I didn't even care whether she understood Portuguese or not, because you're reacting to me, your reaction, your expression, everything is also in Portuguese. So let me express myself in the language that I know. So I said to her, read. Now I was now speaking. I was letting her know I will not accept your racism, your racist behavior against me. That was now the stance. I had given her so much opportunity, time to attend to me, to listen to me, but she wasn't bothered. I had to take the next step. So I now said to her, read. I said, read. She was looking at me, pretending like she didn't know what I was saying. I said, read. I continued to tell her, read my whatever it is I have on my phone, read it. So she didn't pick my phone from the table. I picked it up again. I put it in her face, close to her face. I said, read now. Take it. Then she took it and she read. Immediately she read that statement. I don't know why, her face changed. Her face changed. She became sad in her face. I don't know what, maybe she was sad because I don't know what made her sad. Because somebody like that, I don't think anything you say to them will make them feel bad. As long as they're racist, they don't care what you say to them. So I'm not sure what made her sad. So I now, when she finished reading it, I just took my phone and I left her side. I was satisfied now that she knows that I was satisfied now that she knows that I know that she's being racist against me. So now I decided to go look for somebody else to attend to me. So I saw a lady, I spoke to her. I'm like, I'm here. Do you speak English? She said, so. So I said whatever it is I wanted to say. I showed her my translator as well. She said, okay, come here. This is where you're supposed to go. She took me back to the same lady. In my mind, you know what? She said, look, she spoke to her in Portuguese. She's here for laboratory. That was when she started smiling. She started smiling like, so yeah, she's supposed, I didn't bother to even tell the lady, yeah, I've been here, but she did this, she did that. I didn't even talk. I just stood there. And that was when she took my paper to attend to me for my lab test. You see that? So now, for those of you that would say, oh, if you're not comfortable in another man's country, you can go back to your country. I will put this to you. If I ever see such comment or somebody says that to me, even in real life or anywhere, I would let you know that your people in my country too that live there should also return back to their country. Because there are lots of foreigners in Nigeria. Lots of foreigners in Nigeria, living big, living large. Living big, living large. Nigerians treat foreigners like gold. They put them in the best environment, pay them hugely, and I'm not kidding here. Nigerians know this. Pay them hugely, protect them, practically worships them, and put them in places like Banana Island, VGC, Ikoyi, and the Lekki, all those places. You will never see a foreigner in Nigeria living in the common streets. You cannot see them living in common street, living with normal citizens, because they are being stocked up in the rich man land, rich man areas. Nigerians treat foreigners way better than their own people. They pamper them, overpay them. Go and look at Nigeria. There are Indians, Lebanese, Chinese, Americans, Europeans, right? Different people, Brazilians, living large. Banana Island, VGC, great places. You can never find them on the streets like the common citizens, like I've said before. But you will never see a Nigerian rebel against them, fight against them. Oh, you're being paid more than we, the citizens. You start seeing them beating up foreigners. You can never catch a Nigerian do that. Instead, a Nigerian would even pamper foreigners. Nigerians pamper foreigners, even look after them, even almost worshiping them. You will never see a Nigerian angry that they are being, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I know you will never find a Nigerian angry at a foreigner for being more well paid than them or being well taken care of than them. The government will take care of, companies will take care of foreigners more than even the Nigerians themselves. But go to South Africa. A South African or South Africans, the black ones, would not mind wasting Nigerians all because a Nigerian is doing well. The same thing Ghana. Ghana does that thing. You would see a Nigerian doing well. A Nigerian who has labored, suffered with $1, created an empire. Give a Nigerian $1. Come the next year, you will see what a Nigerian has built with that. And I'm super proud of Nigerians. Nigeria remains my number one country in the world, no matter how worse it is. I will never talk down on my country because that is the country that birthed me. That is the country that raised me. That is the country that I am from. That is where I know everything I know from. Everything I know today is from that. That is my root. It's from there. So I feel sorry for people who talk down on their roots, on a place that birthed them, regardless of what is happening. Yes, things are not going well, blah, blah, blah. But should you now bring down where you are from? I do not buy that. Now look at the situation that happened in South Africa, where the South Africans on many occasions, more than one, has beaten, wasted the lives of Nigerians all because they're doing well. Now, in that case, now when you have war in the country you think you are, that is so good, so this and so that, better than the place you're from, in situations like that, when there is war against you, when there is one or two things against you, or in the case of deportation, where do you run back to? Is it not that same country you talk down on, that same root of yours, which is Nigeria? Is that not where you're still going to go back to? In the case of deportation, if they deport you from that almighty country you think you're in, where do you end up going back to? That same rat hole you called your country is where you return to. That is where it still takes you back. That is where it still welcomes you home. In the case of Nigerians that were being wasted in South Africa, in the case of Nigerians that are being mistreated in Ghana, and they get tired and they want to return home, where do they go to? The president of Airpeace, when the whole South African thing was happening, he went there, he took, flight there to take Nigerians back home. Where did they return to when the South Africans were wasting them? Home. So don't ever talk down on your country. When you're being racist against, it is home you remember to return to. You remember home when somebody is treating you bad in their country. Home is still where it takes you back, regardless of what you have said against it. That is your root. That is your source. As far as my child is concerned, she is a Nigerian with a Brazilian passport. Nothing can change the fact that she's first a Nigerian before any other thing. To Brazilians, she's a Brazilian. But to me, He's first a Nigerian before a Brazilian. All right. Anyway, so let's move forward. So that is it. So moving back to the story. So you would see. Then, so if you, like I was saying, if you tell me that go back to your country if you're not comfortable, all your people in my country should return back to their countries and let's see how they will fare. Brazilians living in Nigeria, living like kings and queens. Come to Brazil. I'm living like just a normal la 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 la. You know what I'm saying? There are no jobs, nothing. But they know what they're benefiting from Nigeria because they are practically being treated like kings and queens, living in the best areas. Go there. See how Americans are living, Germans. You know, so don't tell me to go back to my country. They also, your people in my country should return back to their country if that's the case. Anyway, moving forward. So that is another example. And that person that was racist against me, didn't want to attend to me in the lab, is also a brown Brazilian. The one with the curly hair and with the light-skinned complexion. Okay? So now moving forward to another experience is, you know, after I gave birth to my child, the severe abdominal pain thing is still there. It has not been sorted. I continue to go to the clinic in my area. Do you know, for 7 months, I continue to go there. And the same man that is at the reception continues to tell me, no doctor, no doctor, no doctor. No. So he said no doctor to me every time I went there to book an appointment for 7 months. 7 good months. I was now, and I'm in pain. I'm dying. And you cannot go to another hospital in another area. It has to be the area you live in. I was dying. I was in pain. In fact, I'm still in pain. But let's just say it's still recent anyway. So at this point, I'm like, why is this man always turning me back? Why? Why is he always turning me back? So I decided this day when I went, I was so much in pain. I really needed to see the doctor. He told me again, no doctor. That day I said, no, I would not. Because I keep accepting it, going back, each time he tells me this, he continues to enjoy it and continues to punish me. I said, today, I will know whether there is a doctor or not. I picked my phone. I typed on my phone, you are a racist. Finish. I didn't bother adding any other thing. I just gave it to him. I said, read. I spoke my language because that way you'd already know that this person is not okay. I said, read. And when he read it, he felt extremely bad. I said, you're a racist. Finish. And then when he knows the meaning of racism. When you say racist, in Portuguese, it means racismo. So it's, if I'm saying it well, I don't know, but it's similar. So even if you speak English to him, you're racist, he knows. I didn't even say any other thing apart from what I typed on the phone. Immediately, he read that thing. He became very sad. He called another colleague of his. He was trying to amend the situation. He was so panicked because it's a crime. So because I always went back all the time, I don't complain, he would tell me no doc for 7 good months, and I was dying. Because I would always go back, he felt comfortable to continue to punish me. And then when I called him a racist that day, if I tell you that from that day till today, this guy books me appointment to see the doctor, you will say I'm lying. And that is why till today, the progress I have today in that clinic is because it was from that day I made that statement. And that was when I came out to make a video one time talking about my health and the delays in the system. It wouldn't have been that bad if that guy was deliberately delaying me. Yes, there are delays, but that guy, I later got to figure things out. That guy was adding his own wickedness to the whole situation. Since that day till today, anytime I go there now, he will pamper me. He would even try to, he was so kind, so nice. He would even try to speak 1 or 2 English with me. You understand? So since that day till now, I am getting doctor's appointments steady. Both for myself, for my child, steady, without interruption. So you need to learn to say no. That is what I learned from my journey. Because I wasn't saying no, because I wasn't reacting, because I wasn't, putting my stance down. I was, they continue to try to bully. They continue trying to be, So anyway, and who again is the racist? A brown Brazilian, light skin with a coily hair. So So anyway, the last one that actually happened to me, which is very recent. Everything I've talked about is from last year to this year. Okay. Now I've left Rio, okay? I'm here in Brazil. The one that happened with this man now is this last one I just explained now is in Sao Paulo, okay? The other ones is in Rio. Now, this story again now I'm about to talk about is also in Sao Paulo. I'm not trying to say that the whites are not racist. I have not experienced them. So I cannot say what I didn't experience. It's possible some people get being, I don't know, being racist against by the white ones, but I don't know. So I cannot talk about what I don't know. So, but majorly as a Black African, I have been, the racism I've experienced so far is from the brown Brazilians, okay? I've not even seen much of the black Brazilians, but they say they are part of them too. But the brown ones, the light skinned with the coily hair, are the ones that have been racist against me. All right. So let's get that differentiated. So the last one that happened to me was recently, I think early this month, August. I went to Luciana, to the clinic for her checkup and all of that stuff. So the doctor ordered us to go book an appointment for her to draw her blood because she's 1 year now and they need to check her for a 1 year blood test and all that stuff. So I went there. I tried to talk to the woman in charge. She looked at me. She just removed her face. She didn't say anything. I said, okay, maybe some people are like that. It's possible she looked at me, but she didn't know I was talking to her. I tried again to talk to her again. She looked at me. She frowned her face. She removed her face. She continued what she was doing. Okay, anyway, I waited. So when she called me to come in, eventually I went there. She told me to give her her card. I gave it to her. I gave her the vaccination card and inside was a CPF card. So I handed it over to her. I didn't know what she was really asking for, but I know she was asking for something about the baby. So I gave her vaccination card that has all her information in it. Immediately I landed it on her hand like this. If you see the way she dropped it like pick it up and open it. Something like that. That's what she did to me. The way she quickly removed the hand and I just told her, calma, like immediately. I knew she wanted to start. I knew that thing wanted to start repeating itself. I told her, calm. Like I told her, calm down. Like you are not just going to start this racism thing with me. I told her. And immediately I started speaking my language because that is how I can express myself. I said, I will not accept racism from you against me. So she understands racism because of racismo, which is the Portuguese language. So I told her immediately, I will not accept racism from you. No aceito racismo. That's my broken Portuguese I now added at the end of my statement. So immediately I said that. She could not talk. She was angry, but she could not express herself back to me because now she knows this person is not accepting what I'm doing. So I said to her, do not ever do this again anytime you see me in this clinic. Let this be the last you will ever do. I was speaking English because I don't need to tell you I'm not all right at this time. You already know once a person starts speaking in their language to you and they are not stopping, you should already know. They already know that the person is not all right. So when I made my stance, I told her, no aceito. Racismo, no. She understands. That's it. And when I was done with her, she finished with me. She gave me my card. I left. While I was going, I think I forgot something or I don't know what she wanted to call me for to tell me. She was calling me. I saw her with my eyes. I didn't even answer her. I just left. I don't care whatever it is she was saying. I just left. So she knows she's not relevant. But I know what she wanted to tell me wasn't important. She knows she's not relevant. And at that moment, I don't want to see you in my face because you were trying to be bad. So that is it. Anyway, those are my experiences. Thank you so much for watching. It's a long video, but always remember to appreciate your roots, love your roots, no matter the situation in your country. Never talk down on the place you're coming from because in the future, if anything happens to you in that place you think is an island, where you will return to is that same hole that you insulted or that you do not regard as important. That same hole, that same rubbish place, that place that birthed you is the same place that will accept you if anything goes wrong to you in another man's land. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day, everybody. I'll see you in my next video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Bye-bye.